Carolyn, here to share more channeled messages. So today, it's Jennifer and me again. We have a lot to say these days. But basically what these are conversations that she and I have where we're just allowing you in to listen to the chat that we have. So a lot of what we talk about are experiences that we're having presently, as well as channeled information that comes through. And I think those of you who have watched these before understand that format. But I just wanted to let you know that this is a combination of experiences we're having in our own awakening and ascension journey, as well as channeled information. So some of the things we're going to cover today, and like I said, it's really the overarching ascension journey from our perspective and the things, like I said, we're experiencing, and some of the things that are coming in as synchronicity as well. So what I have found in the things that Jennifer and I are talking about, I am starting to get massive synchronicity through books, two books in particular that I've been reading, that I've shared some of it with you, but there's even more about vibration and about frequency and the shift and change and the taking of the body and all of what we're talking about here as we go through our awakening and ascension journey. So just know that, and I reference this in the video where I talk a lot about all these other things that are happening that are putting the story together, where I do feel like Jennifer and I are, I don't know if it's going to be an unraveling of like A, B, C, D, E, but an unraveling of different pieces of this journey. And as we do that, what we're going to do is share that with you. So again, it may be a big puzzle with all these pieces that we then have to put back together. But at the same time, we're going to offer to you, as we feel down the road, some of our knowings and understandings and our own experiences. So with that, we're going to cover today, I just made a few notes because there's a lot. The old stories that are coming together, convergence. Okay, we're going to talk about that and what that means. We also have a theme in there about unity consciousness. We're going to talk about Earth, how it's the great experiment. This all connects together too, by the way. We're going to talk about the galactic perspective on ascension and that involvement. We're going to hit on also the fact that it's a spiritual experiment. What we're going through. We also touch on what we call the galactic birthing process, which also includes the galactic story, our raising of our consciousness, and many other pieces. But essentially it all fits into this broader perspective and understanding of this awakening ascension process and how it works and what we're seeing unfold, and what we're seeing is synchronicity. So today's conversation is a bit longer. I was going to split it into two videos, but I thought that would really disjoint it. So again, come back to it if you can't listen to it for all of, I think it's an hour and 20 minutes. But I think you're going to take away a few nuggets of information for your own journey. And like I always say, that's the goal of my videos, is that not everything's always going to resonate, but hopefully you'll take a few things away that will help you on your own awakening and ascension journey forward. So I'm Carolyn, I'm a channel, I'm a distance energy healer, and I'm a spiritual awakening mentor, and I offer my services through purplerainhealing.com. You can visit me there to learn more about my services. But thank you, all of you, for joining me today. And for those of you who are new, you're going to find a link below in the description box that will take you to a video I've created to help you understand how important flow is in our journey for awakening and how to create that in your body. Additionally, what it does is it takes you to my email list. So what you're going to get when you do sign up is you will receive an email on every Friday or Saturday that includes a poem from the Light Keepers. It's channeled, it's supportive for you for the week forward. So hopefully you'll enjoy those and you'll join me. So I'll connect with you at the end and wrap up with a little bit more information. And again, thank you so much for joining me today. Here you go. So anyway, you were saying how things are shifting and changing, and just
there's a lot of things converging right now. I feel like I was telling a friend the other day that I feel like it's like that in Atlanta we have where all of these freeways, all of these US highways, freeways, they all kind of meet in one spot, and it's this huge massive interchange, and we called it Spaghetti Junction, right?
I just heard convergence.
Yes.
Ooh. Oh God, I have chills. Convergence is happening is what they're saying. So
much.
Oh, they're showing a spider web now too. Spider web.
Mm.
Like, you know how the spider starts, like there's a center to the spider. Do you know what I'm saying? I don't know how this applies. And it,
Pulling it all.
okay, so go
Yes.
ahead.
So it feels like this. There's a lot. There's so much, and it's really kind of cool in a way. If as long as I'm not feeling like too much like uncomfortableness with it, I'm able to see, and I'm kind of enjoying it because I'm watching it unravel in a really amazing way. It's a ton of information, but I'm also getting to see how all of these things are now coming back into the center and how all of them are related to each other. And, I don't know, it just, for me, that's satisfying in a way because I've experienced some of these things for so long and I could never make a connection. So it was very kind of chaotic.
Yeah.
And so it was difficult.
Can you explain what you're talking about when you say the things that are coming together, what you just mentioned, like some of that detail? Because I'm thinking if we use this would be very interesting.
So, on different planes and levels of existence, different dimensions, timelines, eras, universes, and even like multiple probabilities or multiple potentials within these. There's so much, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we're talking about.
You're saying it's converging. You're seeing this convergent to kind of this. Ooh, they just said singularity. They just said a singularity. Is that right? Kind of like a pulling it all in.
It's all coming back to like the center point. So, and I feel like I'm sitting at the center. I feel like it's all flowing through me and from different directions. And so I can feel the vibration of each one, kind of like a spider sits in the center, and it can feel like when it catches something, it feels the vibration, So I feel like I'm there and all of these things are running in all these different directions, but I'm starting to now sense it almost like spidey sense. It's a good analogy actually, because I don't necessarily see it all, but I can feel it in a way that I can't really explain, but I can feel what's happening. And then I can start to feel the correspondence from something that could, like, for example, it could be something that happened in the Garden of Eden.
Yes.
And I can feel its connection to something that may have happened like on Nibiru back in 2012. Clearly those things are so far apart, right? As far as what we understand, but that's the kind of stuff I'm starting to feel is like that Adam-Eve thing is connected to Nibiru in 2002. You know what I'm saying? Not specifically that, but it's so amazing to see how this huge story, this huge, massive amount of experiences and realities and how they very much are so interlinked.
Yep. And I have to share this with you because I'm having the same thing happen. It's just a little different. What I'm getting, and I won't go into my whole story detail, but I'm getting different parts of antiquity, whether it be religious, indigenous, whatever it is, different parts of antiquity, all in the last 4 days, showing up in books, in movies I'm watching, in TV shows. I don't even watch that much TV, in information I'm getting, connecting things that happened that we don't even really understand, things that happened with the things that have happened in way ancient history. And it's all connecting in, just like you just said, for my purpose in things that I'm going to be working on here. But that's why they said convergence. Didn't they say that earlier?
Yes.
This is what's happening to me. It's all tying together. There's a link to what happened over here and that what's happening here. And you would not think the two would meet, but they're all connected and they're telling a story.
It's interesting too, how this story, and I'm finding it kind of exciting, even though it hasn't come together. I'm finding it kind of exciting to see how it's going to connect. It's like almost like the buildup to the end of a movie. Yes. Like, oh my God, it's going to be like a twist ending, and you're going to be like, oh my God, So it feels like that's coming, like, because I'm seeing just these things that you would never believe are connected to each other, and they very much are.
Yep.
Right?
And what I think part of what you're getting, this is so interesting. We're having the same thing happen. Is okay. They just said this, but this is what I was going to say is like the old mysteries that we've been guessing about, or we have thought were a myth. The old mysteries are starting to be solved by these connecting points, by this convergence. And to your point, I think we're all going to be really surprised at what shows up. And it's not just one story. It's a multitude of stories that okay, what they're showing me, and see what you think about this, is they're ultimately all going to connect into the oneness. And that's that spider web they showed, like that center point.
And it's an amazing experience. It's a lot to take in, but I'm now at the point where I'm enjoying it, where it might, for some people, it might be like, this is too much, I need a drink,
Yeah.
Now I'm starting to enjoy it. If, like I said, short of any kind of discomfort that I feel, but I'm like, but I'm starting to enjoy the fact that I'm seeing it, I'm seeing all of it, kind of, I'm feeling all of it. And it's not only just like clairvoyantly when I can tap in and actually view something, it's vibrationally.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a sense that I can't really explain. I don't even know if there's a word for it. It's just, I can, without even seeing it, I can just tell you what's happening. It's conceptual understanding. I don't even know what it's called.
So what I'm getting that aligns with that maybe is they're talking about interdimensional, like it's like you're dimensionally shifting, but it's a convergence, which sounds really weird, but a convergence of like, okay, they're saying interdimensional information, but it's converging into the oneness of your of like our understanding, your understanding in your case. Does that resonate at all?
Yes, it's like and just knowing it, just having this, all of a sudden you just know, or it comes in like in impressions, and it's coming in at such a rapid pace.
I'm having the same thing happen. This is so wild. You and I have not even talked about this. And then just for our audience's purposes, because I'm pretty sure we're going to use this, you sent me an email or a text the other day just saying, hey, I'm getting blah, blah, blah. And I said, I haven't had time to read this. I've been on vacation, blah, blah, blah. And I still hadn't had time to read it since we got on here. And I'm like, oh my God, we haven't talked about this. And now here we have the same stuff happen.
Yeah. And really what I was trying to convey, I had this long list of all of these potential topics, because there's, in my field in this moment, I could name about 50 different ones we could talk about that we perceive as being separate by time, dimension, planet, whatever, that they don't seem that they're all actually related. But the real story here, the headline here, is they are all related and they are all converging, and the vibrationally, it's sorting itself out vibrationally. That's what the amazing thing is.
Okay, so let me make sure for our audience that they understand what we're talking about. When we say they, I want to make sure we're talking about human history, the events, all the things that are converging into a greater understanding of what's truly meant. Is that what you're saying? Or do you want to explain that?
Yes, and it's not just human history. This is how it's tied to, and although we are our human, it is tied to everything, but it's not just human history. These are things that happened galactically, that happened on other planets before this planet was even created, that kind of steered how this planet was created and who were the groups that were the primary creators for humankind. It's some of the stuff that even happened before, and how that is even tied into. It's just, everything is connected. Everything is connected.
I'm just kind of blown away by this, because I'm just sitting here thinking of the things that happened to me in the last few days. And I will, again, I'd love to tell this whole story, but that would take a couple hours. But the point in this is we're getting pieces of stories from antiquity that are coming together to tell a bigger story, and what they said is telling the story in the sense that it's all, we see these disparate pieces. And we, in our human journey, right, these disparate pieces, we're like, oh my God, there's so much there's all this, but it's coming together. And they're saying that the story, I wrote this down, the story is coming together.
I love it. And that's funny. They said the story, that is where my excitement's coming from. I have this underlying anticipation about, I can't wait until this all comes and I can see the story, right? It's funny. That's actually where my, motivation's coming from right now, is why I have all of this stuff coming together. Is kind of like, oh my God, I can't wait to read the ending, right?
And you know what I'm getting too? There are other people out there getting parts of the story. I don't know how that will converge. So I think if you'd like, why don't we bring some, I mean, does that make sense to bring some of
Sure.
the things you're getting that's coming together and
Yeah, I
converging
was
and
thinking
help?
kind of like what was one of the most amazing experiences. I'll just start here. It'll probably take me somewhere. But the other night I just we wanted to connect into some form, get a platform and connect into kind of a higher level. So we decided, well, we're just going to, it was me and another friend, we're going to just provide a platform and we'll just call it for omnipresence. Okay. We're not going to be specific as to this group, that group. We want other presence, omnipresence. Well, Carolyn, oh my goodness. And they kept saying, I was sitting there like almost having a hard time breathing with the energy that came in. And they were reminding me, it's like ask and it is given. Okay. So, you asked for omnipresence, you got it.
Mhm.
Right. And it was the most beautiful, calm, peaceful, amazing energy. It's kind of like some of the things I've talked to you in the past. We're not really accustomed to feeling this. And it was so experiential. And there was so much concepts and impressions coming through, but it was at a level that there was no language to describe it. So I had disconnected from any form of being able to verbalize what I was seeing and feeling. And I was just there, right? Now I had another friend and I were doing this together, but we were at a loss for even anything. We were in it for about 2 hours and we maybe said, 5-6 sentences to each other because there was nothing to say. It was so amazing, but we were both seeing.
So I just heard it was experiential.
It was totally,
in
yes.
the sense of just the experience, not the energy of having to have words around it all. But I think we're going to be getting
so much absorbed this way, though. There was so much. It was such an amazing enhancement to the frequency, vibration, the state, the ability to hold the state, that even know this is available to me, right? I got so much from it, but I couldn't, there was no words to talk about it.
So so when we talk about the initial part of our conversation, talking about the things that are converging and all the things that are coming together, how does that link to this?
Well, what I felt like is it's like tapping into these new horizons. And it's exciting for me to go there myself and to feel this and think, here I am sitting in this amazing, unlimited. That was it. It was so funny because the one that I was communicating with, we exchanged just a few words. And one of them was ask and it is given. The other one was, there are no limits. Okay, there are no limits. And then I said something about the aspect of me, and she said, I am all.
Yeah. Okay. So that links directly to some of the information I'm getting. Mine's coming out of books that I'm reading. The Aquarian Age Gospel is one of the major ones for me. I've got a bunch of other things that have shown up, but I got to tell you, I got the same thing, the no limits, and that we're truly finding out who we are. And they have some actual phrases about that, but it's just prolific in my mind. They also just said to me that space you were in is where we're all going to be ultimately, because it's a space. It's the rising of the consciousness to that level of just allowing yourself to be in that space and time continuum, they just said, versus how we as humans have been taught we have to talk and we have to create a word that's not, it's thought, it's allowing, it's just being in that also assists us in, they're talking about raising our consciousness. Does that?
It really was amazing to me in the sense that here I am, I'm in this energy, I'm having this experience as my human, and it made me feel good. Like, okay, if I can do this, we can do this, right?
Right.
And I could really I felt like if this is where if people could experience this on a collective level, if we can get there to this, we're gonna be amazing. We're gonna do just fine. We're gonna be amazing. So here I am sitting in it thinking, okay, if I can do this, everybody can, right?
Yeah.
And if we can at that plane, it would be this would look so different. It gave me a lot of hope. Okay. It was such a beautiful, beautiful way to be,
So I just got the word sneak peek. You got a sneak peek.
Mm-hmm.
They're also talking about transcending all time and space.
Yes.
And then you said you said something like you wish this for all people, and they said they will experience this. So it's a sneak peek at, God, this ties directly. I would love to read, and you know what I'll probably do is I'll find the phrases or the pieces of the book that I'm reading that link directly to what you're saying, and I'll add that at the end of it, because it ties directly back to what we're talking about, is that we all can be there. And this then ties in, not to get into religion, but we know that Yeshua, Jesus, didn't intend a religion. So I'm not talking about Christianity. I'm talking about what his message was, is that, and this is what I'll share later, is we're all able to do this. This is that this Christ consciousness, the consciousness that he actually had in human form, that he was teaching us, that we all have the ability, that we all have. We're just having to find it within ourselves. And so what I just got is, I'm tying that now to what they're saying is, you got the sneak peek, transcended all time and space, and everyone will have this.
Yes.
That's what you saw as a part of what is to come.
And it was so amazing too. It was for a very short piece of the time. And like I said, we were there for 2 hours. It felt like about 25 minutes. And that was the space and time element of it, is when I moved into that frequency, I then felt that time things fall away as well. So, but I was watching something, like everything was very light white, kind of shimmering crystal looking there. But then this crimson cherry tree with cherry blossoms appeared. And it was really cool, because I think it was showing me an example. What it showed me is, I saw, and it came from me like oh, that's so beautiful impulse, right? And then it started the blossoms blew off of it, hit the water, floated across the water, and then this is amazingly beautiful landscape that my eyes just followed. And it showed me that the impulse of love or beauty or appreciation for the beauty of that tree created so fast that my mind couldn't keep up with creation. I felt I was being shown the impulse of beautiful, created that so fast, 10 times faster than thought. So it removed me from the idea, or showed me the difference between creating through thought or imagination and creating through impulse. And I thought that was so, and it wasn't anything like it was from my memory. It was all something that I had never seen before, and it was spectacular. But I knew that it came from the vibration of like seeing that beautiful tree. I kind of like, my heart kind of skipped a beat, right? So I had that, oh, beautiful. And the whole thing unfolded in a fraction of a second.
Okay, this is
my mind, my mind couldn't have done that. It was like showing you, this is how seamless and effortless creation is.
Yes.
It's not about all this stuff. It's from here, right? It was amazing.
Because what you did, and this is so wild, this is part of the book I'm reading, that just like what you said. And I'm like, this is a different book. And it's like, well, it's part of the Celestine prophecy, but point is what they're saying to me is that you brought the energy of beauty in, you brought that high vibration energy in, and in that space that you were in, you then were able to raise your vibration to then create out of that.
Yes. So it was the witnessing of how the way creation works in that frequency. Yes. And it was absolutely breathtaking. So it was so beautiful. I mean, it was like one of those energies you just want to stay there, you know. The friend that I was doing this with, she's like, I don't know, I just want to move here, you know. Like, I know it's so beautiful, but
So, so that, and I guess I kind of want to take us to add on to that,
sure.
that you remember how we talked about taking our body with us?
Yes.
And that's what we're doing this time in Ascension. And that's the
Mhm.
vibrational shift and change, the cellular change. And as our consciousness raises, what is assisting us is we're going to be able to interdimensionally move through.
Yes.
But we're going to be able to do that with our bodies. And so what they're saying to me is that you got the opportunity right there to understand it from a mind perspective, but the body is going to be able to come with it at some point as we go through Ascension, because we're moving in that place right now where the body is lightening up. That's why we're going through all our clearings, our past life clearings, all this stuff we're dealing with people here in our 3D life, all of this stuff. And we know what all that is, our emotional stuff, our physical problems. It just goes on, right? Our karma, all of that. And so what will happen then is we will transcend the idea that we can't have a body going with us, because we will. It's a vibrational thing. And so you're experiencing that mind part of it, and we will be living in that space at some point, is what I've been told. And yet at the same time, we'll be able to basically interdimensionally travel because of our consciousness level.
Yes.
And our vibration. Our vibration creates our ability to have that level of consciousness that then helps us transcend just 3D.
Yes. And one of the experiences I had when I was, you know, I asked if she has a body. It's a very feminine voice. So I asked, do you have a body? And she said, not, you know, like not all the time. I'm mostly like pure consciousness, but I can have form if I want to. So she showed me, she came into form.
Yep.
And it was unbelievable. Showed me all kinds of this amazing stuff, the way that they travel when they need a body to communicate with other people, all this stuff. It was really,
it's a shift in consciousness and vibration. They're similar, but they're different. But
it was so cool though too, because I asked, like, okay, you know, and when I'm there, I'm like, what does it feel like to be you? That's what I said. And all of my organs kind of did a flip-flop, right, in my body. Like it was a kind of an adjustment to, and then she like to try to give me an idea of what it feels like. So the optimism from this was that I was able to at least touch on maybe a piece of what that might feel like in this body. But it also gave me the understanding that this body is not going to look like this body when we're done. Right. So even though we're saying we're taking the body with us, I didn't really have a full conceptual understanding. And I'm sure I still don't have a full one, but it has evolved tremendously just from this one experience, in the sense that this body is so much more advanced anyway than what we are currently experiencing. But we are going to, the body that we're going to be able to, that is available to us, is so much more advanced than what we're currently experiencing. And yes, so even though we're taking the body, it's not going to actually, we're not going to recognize this between it. We're probably not even going to remember this one that much. The upgraded or the higher level, or just, you know, the one that's just in alignment with the divine perfection of how it was created originally.
Right. It's that true light body. Yeah. It's that true light body. And it's almost like what they're showing to me, just so we kind of understand, is this body that we have. It's like dissolving into particles, but it's still there. But it's like I don't want to say a hologram, but you know what I'm saying? Like pinpoint, they're showing it is like pinpoints of light but it has the physical feature of us as individuals. You know what I'm saying? Yes. And they said okay, so this is interesting. I want to see if they'll give me more. And they're talking about how we're going to transform into that, to your point that you said that we have all this, we have this amazing body and mind that we haven't even begun to even tap into. But they said we will, that's the process we're in. And they talked very much about how this body, this mind, this soul, we have everything in here we need, everything. It's just got to get switched on. And that's why we're going through this consciousness raising process, which is awakening, and then the ascension component to that. And that's how we then are going to transform, really kind of back into what we have always been, but we've never been out.
And I believe it is done by consciousness. Frankly, I think that consciousness is the driving or the catalyzing force for the transformation of the body.
Yes, it is. Absolutely. God, this is the same stuff I'm doing now that I'm studying. I'm in a whole turn point trajectory of what I've been focused on. These books have come into and it's all this. It's all this. So we are supposed to be talking about this today. Let me tell you.
Yeah. Isn't that cool?
It is so cool. I wasn't supposed to read your text. We were supposed to get on here and
I didn't even talk about this in my text, so it wouldn't even have given it away. This is this is totally on the fly here. So
so go ahead.
Yeah, there's such an increase in synchronicity too, like what I was speaking about in the beginning about all of these things running like this huge web. There's all, the spider web. I was kind of like, ooh, the spiders are not necessarily my favorite thing. And there's some negative connotations to the whole spider analogy of the entrapment and all that. But this is something I'm seeing that's very different than that. Or I guess it's all together. This is the funny thing. This energy that was the most beautifully amazing thing I've ever felt, that I spent so much time in, it did not feel like all light. It felt like complete light.
Oh, sure.
Okay. So it wasn't like I went to this super high vibrational, all light and love place.
Yeah.
Even though it felt amazing, it wasn't like that. It was different. It was full integration. It was the feeling of everything in balance. Okay. Yep. So it didn't really give me the feeling like I'm in this, I moved away from dark into the super light. It was not. It was just the perfectly aligned and integrated, seamless togetherness of all that exists. Right?
There was no duality. No, there was no dark, no light. No, yes. It just was. It was all was.
It was balance and harmony.
Yep.
And so that you've lost that whole feeling of like you said, like dualism, of separation. But yet there was so much richness and texture and amazingness to it. And then there was no feeling of something might not being, well, maybe that's right or maybe that's wrong. It was just, but in that state, you don't really have some of these crashing, this colliding kind of turbulent energy. It was just beautifully, perfectly calm and in perfect balance and harmony, but it was still so interesting and it was so beautiful.
So can I take us maybe in a different direction? Not,
sure.
But it ties very much to this. So what I'm wondering is, so we talk a lot about creating the new earth, right? And that we're here to kind of fix what we've done, right? And create what we know we can have. I wonder, as we talk about the space you were in, how that interplays with this creation of our new earth, because what they've always shown me, and hold that thought for a second, what they've always shown me is it's like a figure 8, like as we awaken and ascend, we go up to the higher dimensions. We're up there, in our day-to-day, we pull it back in to use it in 3D. So it's this moving in and out of the dimensions and coming back into 3D to create out of it. So what I'm wondering is the space that you were in, we can sit here and say, well, it feels like we were up in the clouds, but there's the creating part out of that, which you talked a little bit about, that then I feel is connected to creating the new earth.
Yes. And it's interesting you say this, because they showed me something. I was trying to explain this the other day. Okay. So all of the different places, like we are the different frequencies we feel like we go to, or we rise to, or we move, they were showing me it's all running through you. And what you did is you just figured out how to tune your physical structure to this one. So you felt it. So even that you did, it does feel like going to something else. It does feel like you're in a different space completely, that you're like really traveled somewhere, but they're all running through you and you just turned it on. And I think it has to do, it makes me think of DNA, which might be part of this.
Yeah.
And I was just able to tune myself enough to that one that I had the experience that felt like going somewhere.
Okay, they just said to me, as you raise your consciousness, you unlock parts of your DNA. Okay, does that make sense to you?
Yes.
Like, I don't know if it's one or it's what comes first, the chicken or the egg. So now you got to raise your consciousness. That has to happen first before the lock on the door can open, they just said. Does that make sense? Like, so you as you work on the awakening process, the raising of the consciousness.
And I think part of that is through your intention and, being like, I want to have the highest potential in every moment. If there's a DNA process, if there's an upgraded chakra process, if the DNA needs to reconnect to the ports, I'm saying, yes, that is what I want for myself. And that is kind of the way I emanate, and I'm always in that state of, yes, whatever I can do, let's do it. The best of the best all the time, right?
And oddly, I just channeled something yesterday that I'm going to be putting out, talking about the importance of the foundation we set for our human journey, which is goes all into the whole self-care thing. But point is it's what you just said, what the human can do to allow for the rest of this to happen. And they call it the launching pad. And they talk in this channel about, to allow the rocket to launch, you got to have the launching pad stable. It can't be crumbling. It can't have cracks. You have to have that, because we're in this body for a reason. But
and I think some of the process that we're going through now is the clearing of some of the density or the things that have affected the body, and really allowing that to go, right?
Yes.
And, I'm doing it mostly through this intention. Like, even I told you before, I've even seen a body where chakras aren't even involved. But I've said to my team, I put the intention out there, and I went like walking resonance of, if I'm in the one that has chakras, it's the top of the lung chakra one, right? I want to have everything running as this highest performance in perfect streamline at all times, regardless of where, we're not. So if I'm in the chakra one now, the chakra one needs to be top of the line chakra one. If we're going to move to plasma and chakras don't even be involved, well, if I have one of those where we're which I do, we're always keeping that one at the highest performance. So all of these transitions can happen as seamlessly and quickly as possible. So I'm never limiting myself with consciousness or anything else. I'm allowing myself to flow through it, because I'm stating I want the highest at all times.
Yes. Now, as you're talking about this, I'm thinking in human form, we could sit there, somebody could be watching, and we all could say, well, who am I to think that I deserve that? It's that whole worth thing, and that whole like being held down over time because of the constructs, the belief systems, all of that. But the cool thing is, that's a natural part of the awakening journey. We start coming out of that, and we have to bubble up all of that that's inside that holds us from those kinds of that holds us back from being able to articulate what you just said and believe it and know it, right?
Own it, claim it.
Yes. And so that's why the awakening journey has us get all the gunk out in a million different ways.
I said claim it. My whole body got dumped on that.
Because it's our birthright. It's who we are. It's who we are.
We did it. It's ours. We own it. It's not. We're not asking for a handout. That's our body. We're. You know what I mean? That's us. So, yes, I believe that it's. You get excited about it. Remember try to remember that all of this is happening, if not completely because of you, a huge, co-create, you're part of the whole co-creation of it. So
exactly.
Absolutely, you go shoot for the stars.
We're basically, we've talked about this before, reclaiming our power. We've always had it, but we're now really identifying it, and to your point, owning it.
Yes.
never left us. It's this process that we're having to go through to claim it again and say, wait a minute, I've always had this. Now I'm gonna actually, they just showed me a Ferrari. That's so, I'm talking and like I get a Ferrari in my head.
They're so funny.
That makes kind of sense, right?
Well, it's funny because, I said this, I was just about to say it to you now, and I stopped short because I just said this to them the other day. I said, I love my body. I love my vessel. But if I'm going to be here doing this, I want the Lamborghini experience.
There you go. There you go.
I've said this several times. Actually, it's funny that you got the Ferrari in your head.
That's pretty funny. It was red too, by the way. It was bright red.
Like, let's do this right. Blow the doors off of this, and let's get the highest one we can. Because we can do it. And I, like I said, I felt it in this body. In the one that I'm, this one, and I was like, I'm so encouraged that I can bring in this level of frequency into this body and be okay. And it feels so amazing. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, whether we believe it or not, sometimes we're afraid that too much energy, like we can't handle too much energy or whatever. This was a massive amount of energy. It was extremely high, very dynamic. And my body took it like a champ. Yep. It loved it.
And that's why this is why this is a patience process as we go through awakening, because the body has to adjust. And as we can, so that makes so much sense. We all reach different levels. Oh, they just said levels of acceptance of energy. Like if you go in for a Reiki session, I do them on occasion, and the in-person ones. And what she'll say to me is, well, she says, apparently they thought you could handle this amount of energy. They keep giving it to you. So the point is as we continue in our journey, we keep receiving more energy. So our body can, they're talking about like almost like not an upgrade, but like how do I say this? Like they inject the energy and then the cells adjust to that new level of what they can then accept moving forward.
Yeah, they're saying an infusion. It's like an infusion. And your body adjusts as you're infused to it. And so, with some of this really beautiful energy, especially, I really just try to sit and marinate in it and allow it to enter all of my cells, and not run off too soon down some other rabbit hole. If I'm there, I'm like, I need to sit here for a minute. I've learned to do that more. I'm a lot better at it now than I used to be. So I can really soak it in and allow it to, saturate me to a level where I feel complete, like I've completed the process of integration of this now, and just really stay in it as long as I need to let my body just soak it up. And I feel like the fact that I've been able to do that, or that I've been consciously holding myself in that, is what has caused the ability to invite more, to invite higher to come to, higher energies to introduce them, or higher frequencies to interface with me, as well as be able to hold it, to be able to, comfortably hold it. So I'm having some of these really beautiful experiences because I've kind of made myself sit in it. When it comes in, I sit in it as long as I can.
You know what they just said to me as you're talking about this? They said, because you know how they always add on top of what you have. They said, this is conscious ascension. Okay, conscious ascension. Oh, I have chills. What they're trying to explain is so much of this journey we think is being done to us, right? Like, I'm just on the awakening journey and I'll just, whatever happens. This is conscious ascension. This is participation.
Yes.
Conscious.
It's a whole new level of participation, I think. And, had I not had kind of had it all just gone so easy, I not that I enjoyed a lot of the difficulty that I had, but I look back at it now, had it just kind of come in and just done its thing, and I never would have had any rocky or any kind of feeling of something doesn't feel right. I don't think I would have engaged at this level of participation.
No.
I think stuff had to go weird for me to start to say, no, I want to go with it. And it made me get into it. And then it made me see how I'm in here. I actually can influence things. So I was learning the whole time I was doing this. But had it all just been like puppies and rainbows, I'm not sure I would have tried to get in. I would have been just like, okay, whatever. I
Yes.
wouldn't have engaged my creator into the process like I have now. Does
Right.
that make sense?
Oh, completely. Because think about it.
Mhm.
That's kind of the human journey too. Like, you know,
Mhm.
we got to get smacked aside the head in a way with
Yes.
negative stuff. And then down the road, we see the silver lining. We're like, oh, because otherwise, if we're just living in la la land, blissfulness all the time, what is there to even consider otherwise?
Yes.
Right?
Mhm.
Why grow?
Well,
You don't grow.
mhm. Well, they used to tell me take command and control. They kept repeating
Yeah,
this
yeah,
to
I
me.
remember
Take
that.
command and control. And I'm like, of what? You know, I didn't understand what that meant, because I didn't really give myself the credit of being so heavily involved and influential in the creation of the Ascension.
It's ways.
There's so much amazing stuff that's happening. And I'm telling you, you want to talk about synchronicities.
Oh yeah.
It's every song on the radio. It's every video that pops up on YouTube. It's every show that I just happen to click on because I haven't seen this show for 20 years. I used to watch it with my mom. Let me watch a couple episodes. Every episode, multiple things in the episode are completely relating to what's currently. I mean, synchronicities, everything is like, I feel like everything is showing up for me right now. I don't feel like anything is happening by chance. They say that nothing happens by chance.
Oh.
There is no, whatever. You think, okay, I'm witnessing it. I'm experiencing it in such a drastic way right now. I said, now I understand what you were saying. I get it now.
Me too.
Yeah.
And they're saying this is the speeding up. And I've had it too. I've had it just literally in the last week, probably, like week to 2 weeks, but most significantly this last week, the speeding up. And I think what I'm getting, okay, they just said the great convergence, but that's what we talked about in the beginning. They said that word, the great convergence. Wow, okay. But then now what they're showing me, this is so interesting, because remember, we're each our own entity, but we're part of the whole, we're all one. The great convergence, what they're showing me is each individual. Oh God, this ties to the channel that's going out for me that I did yesterday morning. They show us linking arms, that the light workers are actually come together, and they talk about peptides, not to take us off in a different direction, but it all ties to this. And I'm like, what's a peptide? And they lots of times will use chemical bodily stuff to explain things. They said it's like peptides. And I'm like, okay. Anyway, so I then later look up peptides, but point is linking arms and combining what we've done ourselves internally, combining energetically to move into that next level. Gosh, I'm not explaining this very well. Okay, my point is we're all individually working this, but we're part of the larger and greater whole. And as we continue, as we then, this is the linking of arms that they show in the last video. People are showing up. All of a sudden you're linking arms. Now in this next channel, they're talking about we actually link arms and we're moving together in unity. Now, that doesn't mean your neighbor's going to come over and you're going to link arms physically. This is an energetic thing. It's where you're at consciously. It's where you're at spiritually, all of that. And then we energetically, can't see it, energetically link arms, which is shifting everyone. And that's why things are speeding up. That's why we're going to see so much more shift and change, because what this does by us, I'm going somewhere else here, what this does by us linking arms and being the peptides in the greater whole is it breaks down the old faster. So, oh God, I have so many chills. So what they're showing is this, because we're getting stronger and we're linking arms, that has the opposite effect on the old structures and belief systems and what no longer works. And so we're going to see greater strife. I guess I just, you know what I'm saying? The breaking down of.
Yes. It's funny when you were talking, they were showing me like a boiling pot of putting in different ingredients. Now I'm having this distinct feeling, I don't know how to explain it, that there's three, even though there's so much, I think we're working with three big energies or big, like if we're trying to really converge, like things that feel somewhat different, I feel like there's three. I feel like there's three big ones, but there's a lot of little ones within those. But so they were showing me a pot and they're putting in ingredients and there was foam rising to the top and they were scooping the foam off the top. And so it was like taking these three things, putting them in, boiling them. And so the best rises to the top, and then scooping the foam off the top from the three that we're in. Like we're keeping, like the ones linking arms are the foam that's rising to the top.
Okay. So
like what we're scooping off to keep, right?
They're talking about the cream rises to the top. As you're talking, I'm thinking in my human head going, I wonder if she's going to say that they scoop the top off or if they keep what's in the pot. And I'm like, they keep saying the cream rises to the top. The cream rises to the top.
Yes. It's supposed to be what's coming to the top is supposed to be what we're keeping, right?
Yes.
Like this, we're doing this and we're getting rid of all this other, So, yeah, and I'm not really sure exactly what these three different, I feel very distinct, different energies. Wow, do you feel that?
I just took a huge breath.
It's funny. My body has, I've learned how to understand the communication that from different chakras, different having them be different portal systems, and then the temperature or the feeling of the energy that comes in. Like this energy feels very cold to me. Mm-hmm. And it came back through my solar plexus. So I'm realizing that frequency or that area is in alignment right now with my solar plexus chakra portal. Yeah. And it's coming in through there. There goes Christian.
I love it.
Like three different energies, three big energies, like we're kind of pulling these things together. I think that they all are us, of course, but I'm not sure. It feels like we're pulling like huge, maybe it's more like, let's say a lot of times they talk to us about becoming citizens of more of the galactic and cosmic community.
Oh yeah.
And so that might be some of the convergence that I'm feeling, or some of these they're all, it's us, but they're highly diverse, and we're trying to pull them together so we can be a more diverse, we can become part of the diversity of some of this, and I think as humans, I don't think it's just us that are going to join the one that's already grouped together. For some reason, I feel like we're providing a hub for even other energies that don't necessarily come together at all in the absence of us.
Okay.
Does that make sense to you?
I've never heard that. What I'm getting is, if you think of all as one, the fact that we're rising in vibration and frequency, we bring the others along, just like that 100th monkey thing that we talk about, and with the Ascension, and those of us who are light workers bringing the others along. That's what they're talking about. Is that they just said the effect is exponential on other beings, on other civilizations, on other, because we're part of the whole, right? So what happens to one has a direct effect, they're saying, on the other, others.
Yes, it's so interesting too to see. This is what I keep saying. We have a lot of time. We're not even understanding the level at which we play the role that we're playing. I think, we're I feel like sometimes like, is this possible that we're the veiled ones, but yet we're like the ambassadors for like all of these civilizations and different types of energies to actually meet each other for the first time, or interplay with each other, or come together in some form of community, from all over the place.
What they just said was, you are the key and the lock.
Isn't that amazing?
They have always said that we are the jewel. Earth, humankind, the jewel, and everybody, we know everybody's watching, but isn't that interesting? They just said we're the key and the lock.
The key and the lock, yeah. So conceptually, this is what I'm saying, we don't understand, and it's ironic that we are holding this and we have no clue, and we have such a low opinion of ourselves, and we don't know anything, and there's we have this. It's an interesting position to be in. It's also brilliant. Source is brilliant, to do it this way. Honestly, it's brilliant in the way that it's done, because even, we say here, you kind of are holding the whole kit and caboodle, and you don't even know it.
Yep.
Right.
And we get brought to our lowest point, which we don't realize we've been, as humankind over the eons, brought to our lowest point to feel we are through all the institutions, belief systems, religions, it goes on and on, to believe that we aren't worth anything and that we're just sinners, whatever that means, right? And now we're climbing out of that abyss. And now we're going to be saying, oh, wait a minute. That's not who we are. So yes, and because it goes back to your point. Remember when you were saying, I'm glad I had that terrible journey, because I wouldn't have appreciated where I am now and understood the power of that. It's kind of the same thing.
It is.
You have to have the tough stuff in order to appreciate the beautiful stuff, and have that, and to honestly, to create out of that, what you don't want, because that's what we're doing. We're creating the new out of what we don't want.
Yes.
You have to see that first, or you won't be able to create what you do want. And that may sound confusing, but
it's all very mind expanding. Let me just put it that way. When you have to think about this stuff, it's just and the different perspectives that you can see it from. Right. There's as many perspectives as you can tap into. There's millions. No, I think we were just talking about kind of the amazingness of how sometimes I'll like turn to my team, or to different, and I would say, I just had this thought that maybe that's what's happening here, and I'm still like in this kind of, is that possible? Is that is that possible that we are actually the center point for like all of this, and I'm still kind of like blown away about how we go about our day in and day out lives, and the struggles that we have, and the things that we believe about ourselves, and the level of how much control we feel like we have, right? Because I don't think most people feel like they have much control over their lives.
Not at all.
No. That it's a lot of it's tied around the job and how much income. It's like a primary, how much control I have over my life, and that's just kind of a sad state of affairs for us. But it's really so small. Yeah. And I just the concept of like what I do affects this huge, nobody really thinks about that,
And here's the thing is, if we think about this, and this isn't lost upon anybody, I'm sure, but that and relationships have been constructed. Okay. Money and relationships and work within that money part. Those are the two biggies. And then you can talk about religion, right? But all of those we're taught to focus on the almighty dollar. So we've made this energetic thing supercharged, right? So, and that's like a very myopic view. And so that's what we're after instead of the gold that's inside of us, right? And so we're focused on that. In addition to that, the way we've been taught about, let's go back to money real quick, that's where your success is, right? And I think we're starting to flip that around, but success was always about achieving and doing and hitting your goals, but that also came with the money, right? And then we end up with the whole relationship thing. And I know this is actually a video we might do at some point, which is marriage, children, the whole thing, because I'm not dissing any of that, but the point is for so long, it was taught that, think about no birth control and all of that kind of thing. And that it wasn't people just have children, right? It's just anticipated that everybody will get married and you will have a child. And now this is in the past more, fortunately, now it's not that way. We can chart our own course, but there's still some of that out there, right? And you didn't get divorced and the woman was in many ways kind of held down and, to raise the children. And there's no part of her that's able to be expressed. Again, I'm not dissing motherhood, but I know in the extreme, right? In the extreme. And then we have religion that has done the thing of, oh, you're a sinner from day one. You better crawl out of that hole and you better do these things and better have whatever in your life. All those things, to your point that you made, the average person, we've all had to deal with those to some degree. And there are other things. And so, yes, I agree with you that we aren't able to claim our power because of this. No,
we don't come from an empowered stance. Even if you were raised in a really amazing family with parents that were very nurturing and tried to bolster your empowerment, that's just home. Then you have to actually go out into the collective, I'll call it unconsciousness, frankly, and and exist within those energies.
Right.
So we're not set up for empowerment. That is something that, you know, you really have to strive for here anyway, but it's never, nobody really understands the level that we play at,
No.
on a, especially on a multidimensional level, you know, on, you know, with the cosmic, galactic, you know, universal, that kind of thing, how we're tied into all of that as well. Most of us don't even know that, you know, we've never heard that before,
No.
except for the new age community. But it's very mind opening and mind expanding, but it's a long road. You know what I heard? Okay, where did I hear this? When you were talking, I kept hearing this repeated, that we're the only civilization. I don't know if they said planet. I think they said civilization that has to pay to survive.
Oh, that's
That's how that's how much money has become a, like, cash is king, right? They say, like, it's its own deity.
Yeah.
Money is its own, you know.
Yeah.
And because of the way that this is set up here, it's like you have to pay to survive. See, it's not like that anywhere else.
You know what they just said? They just said to me, no, because we're kind of out there, thoughts are currency. Your thoughts are currency, but it's are part of the currency. Okay. But if you think about because the thought process, it's not you pay some, how do I want to explain this? Oh my gosh, because your thoughts create, right? So we are taught that you have to have money to be able to create or get a thing, right? To create. What they're saying is thoughts are your currency because you're creating out of you directly your thought. There's no intermediary of money. Does that?
Yes. Yes.
What I'm saying?
Yes.
That's what they're trying to get at there.
Interesting.
And so if you have a thought, okay, this is new. If you have a thought, they're saying that is disconnected from the all, from the loving side of things, you're going to create out of that. Like there's no money. You don't go buy the tanks and armor to go fight somebody. You don't go do that. You directly create out of that, if that makes sense. If you had a negative, I don't know if that's making any sense.
I know what I actually am seeing the concept. It's interesting. This has been happening with me the past couple of days. I'm seeing the concept of your thought that you're trying to articulate into words. I'm actually getting the concept from you. So I'm understanding you before you start speaking it. It's interesting.
I love it.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. Like when you talk, I like before, like you say a word or two and I start getting a visual and I'm like,
yeah,
it's kind of cool.
Yeah. It's neat being in sync like that.
But no, we are critical to this. Oh, they just said the grand experiment. This has not been done before, this humankind experiment. I mean, on Earth, do you know, excuse me, anywhere else. Earth is its own, they just said laboratory, which we know it is. I mean, it really is.
Yeah. It's, you know, I still, even though I know these are true and maybe metaphoric sometimes, you know, there's certain words that I'm still working on it because I had certain words trigger me.
Yeah.
And I don't like, that's one of the word experiment. I don't like.
No, I know you don't. No, I know, but they that's, I mean,
they know that too. And it's funny because my team will actually use certain words for me in certain situations intentionally as a reverse psychology to say, you're in something you probably don't want to be in. You know, let's say, oh, that sounds a lot like a contract because they know that word. That word.
Yeah. So they just
too. So they'll be like, you need to get out of there, Jennifer. That sounds a lot like a contract, you know, and then I'm like, no contract.
They just gave me different words. They said it's a galactic birthing process.
Oh, interesting.
Because Earth, they said there's nothing else like Earth at all.
Yes.
Because it's a conglomeration of many other places, is what I've been told in the past. And then I had a whole channel on that about like what came from where, and it was fascinating. Yes. Anyway, but the human component to that is the huge experiment of having. It's the consciousness body part of that. it's conscious body ascension thing. There's
Okay.
so when we actually do get to that point where we're ascending, it's a whole different ball game, is what I'm getting. That's not that's not a, oh, how do I want to say this? That might be interesting to delve into.
I want to delve into what you just said. For some reason, it opened up this whole thing when you said galactic birthing process.
Oh yeah, go.
No, I want you to expand on it too, because
for
some reason that caught my attention as soon when those words, and I thought, okay, wait a minute here. I need to.
Well, what
I'll just
I'll add this. So what they have said to me before, okay, they're nodding their heads. They're saying, we are they just said proving ground for future civilizations to come, because meaning other potential planets, other proving ground.
Okay.
Oh, they just said how this works and can this work? Oh, and then just said, and yes, it will.
It will work. Yeah, I know that was probably me. Yes, it will. I imagine. Now, so because all right, so I'm still trying to weave my way through this without causing too many limitations, but also feeling like it's not being okay. So how do I say this? Like I feel like very strongly that there's a purity and there is a pure perfection design that allows for everything. Now, that being said, I also have these kind of pushback feelings about not wanting to hybridize certain things, right?
That's
so here I am wanting this expanded, beautiful, all-encompassing, amazing, highest potential thing, which includes pretty much everything with no limitation. But then I also have this, there's certain things I don't want to mix in there. So it's a two conflicting ideas, but I'm not really sure why I'm doing that. So that's why I was saying it's a galactic birthing process, because some of this stuff, I don't know if you remember, like a lot of this birthing thing, I'm still having very much so the experience of being pregnant. And I'm feeling different things happening. I'm hearing different conversations around a true being that is pregnant, where mine is just feeling that being, right? Mine is not actually pregnant in this experience. So and there is a lot of different energies involved, and there's a lot of opinions about the pregnancy I'm starting to pick up on. And so when you said this galactic, I'm thinking, okay, this is what we're talking about. They were saying birthing the new humanity, right?
Yep.
Now, I saw this as Gaia. So I was thinking very organic, planetary kind, but I think this is a much bigger, just like everything else, it always turns out to be this much bigger picture, right?
Oh, yeah.
So I'm wondering if maybe they can help us understand or expand on that concept about how we're doing this, like how we're doing this integration process, how we're doing this unity process.
Okay, when you say the unity process, you mean how we're doing what? What part? The part
how are we bringing the all that is into like a how they say sometimes you're creating yourself to be everything that you've ever been, everything that you can be, heretofore and forevermore, right? Everything that you can or have been is coming into what we're creating here. And so from going in from a separation to a unity, but how are we, that's kind of a big question, I realize, but they use the word galactic. So I think that's probably what I'm trying to figure out, how galactically and like with other beings, I'm thinking about all of this stuff going on. Okay. How do we pull this?
Here's what I'm getting.
Pull it back to our source self before any of that was actually so separate or diverse, and we kind of come back to that and then express, or are we actually trying to pull from more of a as we separated out more and more and more and more, became more diverse, more variety, more this, there was so much more to choose from, so to speak. And I'm trying to figure out, are we kind of like pulling this back in a little bit more closer to center and expressing through something like that?
Yes.
Or are we actually trying to take the whole thing and get all of that into one? You know what I'm saying? I don't know if I'm explaining myself right.
Well, but
are we working like from the stock, or are we working from the whole, everything that's already been put in? You know what I mean?
So weird, because they're kind of talking about both of it. Both that can it would be both be that way, but I'm just going to go real basic here. What they're showing me, they're talking about, and they're showing visuals of part of the goal. And there's a whole lot going on here, but this is just one thing. Part of the goal is that we will ultimately, they just said ambassadors. Oh, no wonder. Be ambassadors to other civilizations that will also learn to become, how do I want to explain this? We're going to create new civilizations, new planets. Apparently they're being created as we speak to grow from there even. And there's even greater opportunity. We'll expand what's happening here, which is why they call us an experiment. It's not been done before, but it's already set in stone that it's done. I don't know. That's what they're saying. Anyway, and then they're talking about, and I'm seeing this, ambassadors, as we've ascended and we have our earth, or, the whole thing, as we've ascended, they keep saying we become ambassadors to new ways of life, we turn into the teachers. They keep showing us as being very light beings and very ambassador-like, showing up, assisting. You know what it's like? It's okay. I have chills. It's like how the star beings used to come down to us to create humankind, to assist us. But the thing is that what's different now is we're going to be doing that but we're different. We're different than the star beings that have come down. We're like an advanced model, they just said. I know this sounds wild, but it's a similar idea of the star beings coming down. They helped create us in our civilizations. They gave us tools, they gave us technologies, all of that's still happening today, right? Yes. We're now going to be able to do that and be ambassadors. Okay, so I don't know, they're just taking me there, right? So that's like our consciousness, our consciousness and the fact that we will ascend will then allow us to, it's that same thing that happened to Earth, but then now we're involved, but in a different way. It's like, and in that ascended way, we're able to dimensionally travel through. Does that make sense to you? Is this making any sense? Is this feel?
It does. Yeah. It's sometimes I look at it like, okay, we're like kids playing with their toys. Like I hear this sometimes and I think, well, how long are we going to be doing this before we figure? But when you say that, I immediately go to, it's because we're going about it the wrong way.
Yeah.
We're like down on the ground trying to figure something else. You just stand up and look at the horizon. And it's a change, it's a shift in consciousness. You almost like skip over all of this stuff and you look out at the horizon and not down at and it's almost like this backing out of some of those like lower consciousness stuff. Like maybe, for instance, it's not that we have to go through thousands or hundreds of thousands of more years to figure out how to get to Mars before it's how we're going about it.
Yes,
it's
and you know what they just
doing
said?
It in a kind of a weird way that we need to raise your gaze, raise your gaze.
So what they're talking about, this is fascinating. I'm glad you brought this up. They're showing two pieces to our journey. We have a consciousness raising journey. Those are light workers, those awakening, that part we're talking about, right? The ascension piece. And they're showing the people over on the side, like, I don't know, I guess you could say, who's doing this nowadays? Elon Musk? I don't know if he's whoever the people are that doing the technology side of things, like the real 3D, I'm building a spaceship, right? Kind of thing. Guess what? These both have to get together. They have to get together. The raising in consciousness with the technology, and there we are. Now we're here. We can't do this alone.
Yeah.
We can do this alone to a degree, but we also are going to have technology that will assist us in the journey. It's the same. It feels very similar to, but it's advanced. They keep saying it's very similar to how the star beings assisted Earth, but it's different. It's like a. They just showed the Super Bowl. It just showed the Super Bowl. Okay, so the Super Bowl of all football, right? That's the
Yes.
place you want to be.
Oh, gotcha. Okay. That's funny.
So
Yeah, I don't know.
what are you thinking about all that?
Well, I find it, there's so many things that are coming to me while you're talking. The things like what we said earlier, like we're in a veiled state, but we're actually the teachers.
Yeah.
So, and then they told me the other day something about how even when you're learning, you're teaching, right?
Totally.
So by being here learning, I'm actually teaching. So a lot of times when I see, like for instance, the other day I did a activation with a friend of mine on her channel. Okay. And I said, we'll just do the general activation. I'm not going to do them individually for anybody, but they can come into the group and participate in the energy of it, you know, for people who wanted to do this activation. So it was a new experience for me, but it was amazing the way that it was set up. I kind of went into it with the intention of what we were doing. I felt the platform and everything arrange itself and raise, and it cleaned everything. All of our technology kind of flipped into a different frequency. And then I had all of these screens pop up in front of me, all of these like clear plexiglass screens with all of this genetics and stuff running on it. And I didn't even know I was on a separate camera, so I couldn't see comments or how many people were watching or anything. I just was talking to her, like kind of like we are. So I'm watching, like, and then I start to see like teams, like 3 or 4 members of teams showing up behind the screen. I can see them kind of in the distance behind all these. So I had 6. And so I said, hey, how many? And we had just started. I said, how many people are in now? And she said 6. And I'm like, yep, I've got 6, you know? And as we went through, as people would show up on the live, more screens were added and it was all running at one time. And there was all of these groups that were here, right? And then sometimes even like a specialty group would show up and add information about something and then they would leave. But there was all of this stuff happening. And I'm sitting here going, this is unbelievable. And they said something to me, as you're learning, you're teaching.
Yeah.
So they were saying they're here observing from you to learn from what, as you're kind of learning, you're learning this, they're actually watching you and they're learning through you, and how you're learning is teaching them something. I thought, wow, okay, that's an interesting concept too, right?
Yes, because
So,
it's about the process of transformation, and transformation includes learning. So they have to see the learning part of the process versus just the teaching. Does that make sense?
yes.
It's not the same energy of just teaching. They have to see how, because they see it differently. Okay, this is interesting. They don't just hear the words that we exude when we learn. They're seeing the energetics. They're seeing something different in what happens to us. Like chemical reactions and interactions is what they're saying. So the entire process is important to them. And they just use the word unfold, so they can unfold how the entire journey works from, they just said inception to completion. They're really studying Ascension. I mean, they're really studying Ascension and the learning behind it. But to your point, that piece, the learning is critical. Wouldn't be happening otherwise. They couldn't learn anything if they didn't see our learning, is what they're saying.
Yeah, so it's like they're saying you're learning, you're seeing this, but you're actually, all of these other, some of the ones that are here watching, you're teaching while you're learning.
Totally.
So you're teaching them while you're learning, you know. It's just an amazing concept to watch this, because sometimes I'm like, what are all these people doing here? Right.
Yeah.
And that's like, I start to see and feel them crowding around, you know, like sometimes, do you remember like these old time, you know, medical school? I don't know if they still have this. They used to do like autopsies or surgeries in these cathedral looking round rooms.
Oh yeah,
really the very end, but the seats were really like, it went up really high at a really sharp angle so everybody could see.
Oh,
do you know what I'm talking about?
and
the center was round where the doctor was doing his, these are like the, you know, old time medical schools when they first started, they were like this, right?
Right.
And they were like really high stadium seating. in a circular room. So wherever you were sitting, you had a really good view, almost like you were looking over the surgeon's shoulder in these rooms. That's how, when I start doing some of these live healings or different things, that's what it kind of appears around me. That's the feeling. I'm in this room like that, in the center, and they're all like at an angle where they can kind of watch and see what I'm doing. It's like an observation. That's the visual I get sometimes, and it's also just the feeling that I have. Like there's all the way around me, 360 in a huge like cylinder up, where they can look and watch what's happening.
Yep.
I mean, there's thousands of them. Sometimes I can feel the energy of just so many watching, right? But it's really something. So, of course I'm kind of like, oh my guardian, I'm like, what are all these people doing here?
Yeah, you know what they just said to me as you were talking? They just said the libraries are filling up. And what they're talking about is like the Akashic records, but the libraries of, because here's the thing. In the past, when we were going through this process, when individual people were going through ascension, because individuals have done this in the past, right? That some have ascended. There's never been an in mass kind of thing on Earth. So what happened in the past is the experiences of those who went through the awakening ascension journey were very few. They have a couple books in the library on this, right? This is how they're explaining it. Now it's in mass. So like there's just information showing up. So it's like a whole collection on ascension.
Through, like they said, through thought is currency. I think through thought form, because we're creating all the time.
Right.
But I think that there's so much that has happened. Maybe that is the product of unconscious thought, right?
Yes.
Or unconscious thought. That through consciousness, again, like I was saying, we're going to evolve pure consciousness, more being than doing, right?
Yes.
Because we're going to clean up.
Yes.
We're clean some of this stuff up and realize this is how we're doing it, right?
What they're showing me, to add to this, is those levels of consciousness. So interesting, is who you'll encounter in that part of the journey. Okay, everybody, I hope you enjoyed that today. I don't have a lot to add. It was pretty extensive. I will say that what has happened with me, and has happened so much on my journey, is all the things that you heard about in here, I am getting rapid succession synchronicity on through books, through the limited TV that I watch. I'm kind of a freak for the History Channel on certain occasions. I'm reading certain books that are coming my way. I'm running into videos, online YouTube videos. I'm running into postings. It's very interesting how I'm being guided to understand that what Jennifer and I are talking about is telling a story, or parts of a story. Okay, so again, I hope you take a couple things away that assist you in your own journey, and that helps you kind of unravel things you've been wondering about. So in closing, I remind you of my services in purplerainhealing.com, where you can get your own channeled personal messages in all of the services that I do. You just have to pick which service you think works best for you, whether it's spiritual awakening mentoring, or a one-on-one session where we unravel some things going on in your journey, or distance energy healing, where I also give you a summary of the session. Everything I do includes channeled messages for your past, present, and future journey in this incarnation. We also take into account your larger soul journey. So check it out. I'd love to work with you. purplerainhealing.com. And again, I thank you so much for joining me today, and I will see you in the next video.